use the term the hieroglyphic, okay? That's an incorrect term. So we're not going to use the term hieroglyphics anymore because that's not what it actually ever was, right? What these are is part of the Meta Neche. It's a whole like language system that is said to be this divine language, and the Ankh, this symbol, is simply a part of that. It's simply part of a larger language ecosystem called the Meta Neche, right? And it's literally meaning the nature's language, right? Because I know that Neche means part nature. It's partially translated as nature. So when they talk about what the quote unquote gods in Kemet were, they're actually Netchers themselves, which are natural forces. I think they're more defined, obviously nature, natural forces. So that's kind of how we see the Ankh. Now, what it means is life, or to live, or living, or it means to give life. It can also mean to give life. And we've seen some iconography, and I should have brought that picture. I'll see if I can find it. But there is an image of Aset with Heru, of course, her son. And this is when she's prepping him to be on the throne. You see her like symbolically handing him an Ankh, which means I am elevating you. I am like lifting you up. That's what it is. In a lot of ways, it's like I am speaking life into you, right? That's kind of what the whole idea of the Ankh actually means. I'm speaking life into you, or I'm giving you life. This is by, or at least the act of actually giving it, right? So that's what the Ankh means. So let's talk about it. Now, this is obviously old Kemetic Egyptian. Its primary domains are life force, vitality, external existence, and we see it as this loop here. Now, from iconography, right, the loop is held by the god. So they always hold it by this loop, or present it as a noose of humans, the breath of life. So it's widely recognized as a symbol of life, vitality, and divine life force. And unlike other symbols, the Ankh itself is a sacred principle. It represents itself a sacred principle, the Ankh. So so you would always see like all the pharaohs, all the kings holding the symbol. That's how important it was to them. Now, it represents the life force that originates from the divine realm. So its meaning include life, vitality, divine breath, and eternal life. That's what the loop is. Now, I've always perceived it as, now some people talk about just in the form of energy. I think the reason why it is a closed loop is the part that makes it eternal. Now, I may be wrong, and people have argued about this for years, that it seems to possess both male and female components of it. Like when we look at it, obviously we see like the shaft, straight part. We know what that represents. This is a culture that routinely produce things like the obelisk, right? The obelisk is basically a giant penis. That's what it is. There's a reason that the obelisk is shaped like a giant, right? Because it is. That's what it represents. When you go, I think it's like not the Washington mines. The Washington mines is strong. That's what they were doing, and that's why they made it so big, and that's why they made it white at the same time. Like, go and check that out. There's obelisks all over the place, and that's what it meant. So for these culture, that straight shaft was about manhood, right? It's just, we're not going to get away from that, right? And the circle, closed loop, like has symbolism of womanhood. So I've always, and some other people, it's not just me, have always taken it as being a combination of male biology and female biology together, right? Which is an important thing. Like, we all get that concept, right? But let's compare them. Like the Ankh, okay. Now, because it always compares to the cross, right? Which the cross obviously comes a lot later. And to me, and I want to just look at the symbolism of it. If I can grab this image here, and give me 1 second, guys. It'll be well worth it. I mean, we all know what the cross looks like, right? But this is going to help our conversation here. As soon as I get this, there you go. Open that up. Costs a lot of money, right? Okay. So this is a symbol that we're kind of comparing it to, right? And we have to admit, like, let me clean this up. We have to admit, these things are strikingly similar in a lot of ways, right? They get away from each other in the important ways, but on the surface, when you initially look at them, you're like, okay, this kind of like, this starts off the same. This starts off saying that everything but that loop, right? The male shaft, right? You have that component of it. but there's no loop there. And that's where we kind of start to get into, I know this is just interpretations, right? At this point, we're just talking interpretations. But it's an important interpretation that I want to kind of take a look at. I feel like it's necessary when we talk about comparing the Ankh and the cross. Because it can, so to me, right, the way I read the symbol, if I'm reading it in what this has, this is lacking the female part, right? So essentially, when I'm looking at the Ankh versus the Christian cross, and I'm seeing the lacking of the loop at the top, symbolically, what I draw from it is, one, that it's removing the female component, and two, that it is not eternal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if that's the part, it's the loop that makes it eternal. It's also the loop that adds the female gender to it. So without those two components, I think we get something different, right? So that's kind of where I'm looking at it in that regard. You guys can give me your thoughts on that. And I've heard other people interpret it that way. And maybe we're right. Maybe it's entirely wrong. Because a lot of people religiously and symbolically have made the same argument when comparing it. The loop is the womb. The loop at the top is the womb. The loop is the female principle. This is eternity, right? Because of its cyclical nature, that energy doesn't get off, right? This is it. This is how eternal life would look like symbolically. It is male and female union, right? The vertical bar, the horizontal bar is the balance. The loop is the female part, the female component, right? And we all get that without male and female, you don't get life, right? So again, not a criticism of anyone else's belief system. Just symbolically, it's interesting. And I will say that the symbolic, again, you know, if we compare not only their symbols, right? We see a removal of the female gender in this specific loop here, right? This is what we see. So I'm going to cut this up so I want people to be able to see this when I do the short side of this. So we're going to look at these symbols, right? So you remove the female component of the loop, and that matters because it gets reinforced when we talk about like their holy trinity, right? And I'm only bringing this up like not for argument purposes, but for understanding. So we take these two symbols, right? We take these two symbols, and when we take the two symbols, the Kemetic side of it, when they produce their divine birth, like when they produce their miraculous birth, right? Which is Heru. Christianity had Jesus. This belief system has Heru. If you notice, the Kemetic belief system has a female principle in that, and the Christian doesn't. Mary is just the vessel, right? Whereas Kemet is the Father, the Mother, the Son, right? Christianity is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? So the female gender is also taken out in that structure, and I don't think that that's just oops, a coincidence. That's not just oops, I did it again, right? They ain't Britney Spears this part of it. So again, maybe someone with a Christian background can kind of answer what I'm seeing. And I'm not doing this in an argumentative way. I would actually rather learn what the truth is. But if I just interpret symbols based upon that logic, structurally, it seems like there is a reason that they remove the female presence, right? Isis is not just a vessel in this component, right? So remember, when we go back to the symbol, to the structure, Isis is the one who resurrects Asar's dead body. Isis is the one who uses powerful magic to bring him back. Isis is the one who conceives. Isis is the one who with assistance, she raises Heru. Isis is the one who puts him on the throne. Okay, these are the very important things. She is a magician at the highest level. She is the protective Heru. She's one of the most powerful deities in the pantheon. In the Christian Holy Trinity, we get something different. Mary herself is not part of the Christian narrative. She is the mother of Jesus. She's a human who is not divine herself, right? So in Kemetic structure, it's Father, Mother, Son. In the Christian belief system, it is Father, Son, Spirit. Whether that relates to what their actual symbolism, their iconography says, it seems like it fits, but I'm not a Christian scholar. So we would need to get some knowledge to kind of bridge that gap. But these are the first things that kind of stand out when I compare it to the Christian cross, right? Obviously, that's not the crux of our conversation, and that's not what we're here to do. But it does make interesting conversation, right? If we're talking about it. Hate that this thing, like, condensation leaks water all over my desk. I don't like that part. Okay, now talking about the Ankh itself, like a little bit of the history of the Ankh. This thing's been around forever. Like, forever, ever. Forever, ever. Forever, ever. Like, literally, this thing's been around for over 5,000 years now. Like, you're talking 3100 BCE when we first started actually talking about the Ankh. That's how long we've been on this symbol. Over 5,000 years. So 3100 BCE, the symbol is appearing in early royal and religious iconography. So it's on the scene early on. In the Old Kingdom, it was used extensively in temple reliefs and funerary imagery. So it's been around. In the Middle Ages, like, it became strongly associated with divine kingship and the god's ability to grant life. Later period, it still remains prominent. So the Ankh, for all that it's been through, man, that bad boy is still here, man. The Ankh is banking out. It never loses its currency socially, metaphorically. People will respond to a video about the Ankh, which is why I'm doing it, right? I know that the Ankh is something that lots of people have interest in. It's carved everywhere. It's a good looking symbol. Like I said, I carried the symbol myself, and I've had people stop and ask me about it. I think the last time I was flying through Dallas, like the Dallas airport, and I had like a guy who saw my tattoos, and he's like, "What does this mean?" So we end up breaking out this conversation and kind of explaining it. So it's always been a very compelling symbol, and it's often associated with like the old school, right? All the old symbolism. Anytime you see something that's going to be Egypt or Kemet, you're going to see that symbol come along with it. That's just how it is, right? Most of the time, if we see it associated with various symbols, it's Ra. He's granting life through solar power. That's a symbol for him. With Aset or Isis, this is restoring life to Asar. With Asar, it is representing resurrection and eternal existence, which is what it means. For Anubis, this is guiding the souls into the afterlife. So each one of these kind of symbols means something different for the deity that it's using. They're all under the life umbrella. This is what the Ankh is, but we do see it in various positions. So we're going to compare this again with a couple other symbols that I'm going to get into in a minute, which is the Djet pillar and the Wa scepter. And those two are actually kind of combined together. But the totality of this system with these three symbols, it starts with life, stability, power. And I'm going to go in that order, but I wanted to get in on the Ankh a little bit more because the Ankh kind of carries over some different kind of symbolism as well. And I want to bring up a character here because the Ankh never dies. There's not too many symbols that are used like the Ankh, right? Like the Ankh, like I said, not only is this bad boy like ancient, it's also extremely modern. I want to see if I can find a good representation of it. All right, hang on. I'm looking for right. I'm looking for it because this is okay. So here we go. This is the DC character here, and you guys are gonna recognize this right off the bat, right? You're gonna see the power of the Ankh, and I think this needs to be said. I think the Ankh, like this bad boy really deserves all the props in the world for being like a dominant symbol, for always being on the scene, right? And this is Dr. Fate. So obviously this is a very current DC character, Dr. Fate, played by Pierce Brosnan, by the way. If you watched Black Adam, right? It's a terrible movie, by the way, that I had a lot of anticipation. Black Adam was a terrible movie. But we got to see Dr. Fate on the big screen. Debatable. But we got to see the Wa scepter on the screen as well, right? Or excuse me, we got to see the Ankh presented as a power symbol. Like this is how Dr. Fate uses it. So we see how this thing is already crossed into outside of just being a religious symbol. It's crossed into comic book life. So it's modern, it's digital, it's in movies right now. It's not just in a comic. So we're still seeing the symbolism of the Ankh. Now this character uses it for shields, energy blasts, spells, just everything. He uses it as a balancing figure, right? People sell these on jewelry. You can go to Etsy and probably find 100 different versions of the Ankh right now. Okay, if we go on, I'm going to show you another one here. Let me bring this up, right? Because there's another really good character. Because of course, if DC does something, you know that Marvel is like, hey, what are they doing over there, right? What's going on there with DC? If they got it, we got to make sure we got it too. So they did. I'm going to bring up this character here, and this is just kind of re-emphasizing what I was saying when I talk about this symbol here. It's a bad boy, man. As far as symbols go, right? Moet popping, ho hopping, ain't no stopping, right? I'm a bad boy. That's what the Ankh is, because you see, this is Moon Knight. Okay, now Moon Knight is still, Moon Knight's been in comic books forever. I think Moon Knight was an Avenger. Oscar, I can't, who's the guy who plays? Anyway, it's a very recent, they did a whole like series using the Ankh and the Moon Knight series. So we're talking maybe like 4 years ago or something like that when this came out. So this is Marvel's answer to that. And there's other characters we see in the Apocalypse series. That Apocalypse is also said to be rooted in ancient Egyptian culture. So the comic books use it very differently. It's still a symbol of ancient knowledge. It's still a symbol of life force. It's still a symbol of mystic authority. The funny thing, the amazing thing about it is that the Ankh repeatedly appears in modern culture. Clearly it's not dead, and we can see by how well it's represented that it has a very thriving symbolism. Like it's still meaningful and impactful to people right now, whether you're deeply religious, whether you're just looking for something aesthetically pleasing, or the other symbolism of it. Now, it's interesting. I'm going to show you guys this too. The artist formerly known as Prince, right? It's a ridiculous title. I never understood any of that. Had a symbol that basically looks like the Ankh, right? Like, what was the differences between that symbol? And I'm going to show this symbol here as well, because it was very annoying, right? That they're like, oh yeah, this is like, oh, my symbol. But I'm like, yeah, this is the Ankh. Like, I'm just gonna break it down, man. Like, you guys, we can debate it and talk about it. I know the whole conversation. I've been through it. You're right. Prince or Michael Jackson? It was Michael Jackson, right? I don't know where you guys are at with it. But when you say Prince or Michael Jackson, I'm going Michael Jackson. I don't even see how it's a conversation with you guys at all. That one's not gonna work. Let me grab another one. You know how it is going online trying to get a picture here. Like, they're gonna fight you on everything, right? Everybody's gonna fight you. They don't want you getting that picture. Ooh, no, don't use my picture or something. I don't know if I can bring these up here. These are those weird files. Let's see here. Let's see what it gives me here. Let's see if it's gonna work with me a little bit here. All right. Bam, there it is. Okay. So that's Prince's symbol. This is Prince's symbol here, right? You're looking at this is Prince's symbol, and this is the Ankh. This is Prince's symbol, and this is the Ankh, right? So tell me that you created something new when you came up with this symbol. Tell me that when you came out and you're like, this is my symbol, that you weren't literally taking something that existed and just made it kind of weird, right? And added this nonsense on here, right? To make your own symbol. This is the Ankh. It's the closed loop. It's the shaft. Like, this is every single part of the Ankh. So it always kind of I was like, man, what are they talking about that this is your symbol? I'm like, yeah, okay, your symbol is the Ankh. It can be your symbol all you want it to be, but we don't need to deny where the symbolism actually comes from, right? So he came out this in 1993, and he says the symbol is a love symbol. And I'm like, you know what? You bring the cross, right? It's too much. And I get it. You have and again, right? It's the fusion of male and female symbols. That's what it is, which is exactly what the Ankh is. And you know what? They got to that business like 5,000 years before you did. So I can't, you know what I'm saying? I'm looking at I made this part curvy, and like, because there's always variants to the Ankh, and that's how I look at this. This is just another like variant to the Ankh. It's not like a reinterpretation or anything like that, right? Hi, Sierra. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, I'll have this uploaded, so don't worry. Like, yeah, we're gonna go over this in detail. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is that symbol repeated, by the way. So this is what we're seeing with the Ankh, right? He's like, it's sexuality, it's love.